Hey there, Chris.
How you doing, Dave?
Good. Are you actually in town?
No, I'm in St. George. I'm coming home tomorrow. I don't know if I want to come home. I've been checking the weather. It's rainy and freezing up there.
It is a little cold, and we got a little bit of snow on the ground,
Oh,
like basically just in the grass.
just a
Nowhere
dust. Well, we so bad need it, but it was like 85 today. And so it's really challenging.
Yeah, you know.
Don, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys? I'm back after disappearing for a long time.
Sorry you're back. That's never fun.
Well, it was a crazy spring. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But that's all right. It's all things come to an end, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, they do it. They do with me. With you, I don't know.
Oh, it's just crazy.
It was a nutty few months for me. I disappeared from everybody. So,
Good for you.
well, yeah. Wasn't by choice, but yeah, I got there.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's all right. I'm finally back. My little computer just crashed on me for some reason, so I'm trying to get a reset.
Mhm.
How have you guys been this spring? Budget session went okay?
I thought it went way smoother, Dave. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that was much better.
Oh, good.
There were only a few. How do I want to call it? Curveballs that got thrown.
Curveballs is a good way to say it, I think.
But I was kind of expecting most of those.
Yeah, you have to have those, don't you? Otherwise,
It's boring.
you're not in the right place.
I'm telling you,
Sometimes boring would be good, though.
I'm learning that politics isn't nearly as fun as I thought it would be.
Oh, politics.
I don't know what we do in this city to even be called politics. It's small.
Babysitting?
Yeah, well, isn't that politics?
Oh, I guess so, yeah.
But yeah, then I read the news about, various things happening up at the state capitol, and I'm like, okay, yeah,
Could be worse, huh?
much, much worse.
Yeah, but those guys signed up for it. They like it.
They're crazy.
Well, there'd be certain people who would say that we signed up for it, but I'd be more than happy to tell them I didn't sign up for what you're giving me.
Well, I'll stand up for you and tell them that's not the case.
Okay. So, John, where have you been?
Oh, what month?
Which time?
Oh, I think I've been everywhere. Yeah, I don't know. When's the last time I was here with you? It was a while ago. I've been around. I was in California for a few weeks.
Sorry.
And St. George for a week or two, and West Yellowstone, and I've been everywhere. Yeah, anywhere you can think that you don't want to go, that's where I was at.
Awesome.
Well, awesome's not the word I'd use, but yeah, work got crazy for a while, and then I realized why I don't like to work anymore. So finally was able to calm things down and say, no, not worth it. We're staying home. I don't want to go anywhere.
Do you have a seasonality to your work, or is it pretty constant?
It used to be seasonal for me. The industry itself is somewhat seasonal. Through the winter, it's slower. But when you hit a certain size, you're no longer dealing with all the loans. You're just dealing with babysitting, like you guys were talking about. And that's what I feel like I've been doing lately. So anyway, what I've done is got everybody to replace me. So I'm trying to work myself out of a job.
Hey, that's good.
And hopefully I'm only a few months away from that. And then I'll figure out what to do there. I mean, they can't fire me, so I'll have to figure out something to do.
That's when you become the break room stock boy.
That's what I'm gonna be. I want to be the receptionist. I like sitting up front and just relaxing and answering the phone, but I don't want to have to be there, so I can't do that.
Well, that's why the break room. It only requires
yeah, but I don't want to clean up after anybody. No, it's it's good. We're trying to make a jump right now, right before I start moving everything, and we're trying to. And that's what all this was about this spring, is trying to increase so there's a couple of us that can step away and let it take care of itself. Hopefully be a little golden goose for a little while so that I can show up and do whatever I feel like doing.
Yeah.
But it took a push.
All right, gentlemen, good to see all of you.
Good to see you, Mike. How you doing?
Can you hear me okay? My internet's not too stable for some reason right now.
Well, neither is my life, so.
I hear you just fine, if that helps.
Before we get started, hello, Newt.
Mike?
Before we get started, David, do you have access to the camera bid that we received?
I was just gonna look that up right now. Oh, mine, and see that one too.
Are you asking me, Mike, or?
Yeah, that's you, David, because the reason being is I've invited Ryan Eckerson to join us at 8:30 tonight. He's with the Skywire Technologies that gave us that bid, evidently.
Did that get mailed to us?
It was emailed.
If you don't have it, I think I do have it. Let me look.
So I've got something from Doral.
Let's see.
That's Classroom Smart.
That's it. Classroom Smart.
Okay.
They're one and the same company.
Cameras.
Yeah, Skywire Technologies and Consulting, St. George, Utah. Do you want me to share this on my screen, Mike?
Yeah, when we invite him, we might want to put that. I do see it here right now. So
Okay.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind throwing that up when he comes aboard. I told him that so we don't cut into his time too much tonight. He's calling in out of St. George, and I guess you know him pretty well, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, he's not family or anything, but I've dealt with him for many years, and he put our current camera system up that we have right now.
Right. And Val Wilding actually talked to me about him, gave me his phone number and everything. I have contacted him. He was very gracious in willingness to join us tonight at 8:30. And so he'll be jumping on this meeting at 8:30 tonight. So.
Hey, before we get started, let me apologize to everybody for disappearing for a few months. I know that didn't help anybody, but I sure appreciate you guys.
Hey, John, we're all gonna disappear from time to time, so
Oh, so I can do it again.
I'm gonna do it, so.
Anyway, I appreciate it, guys.
Are you off the heavy pain meds?
Me?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm using a pain med to sleep at night, but other than that, no, I'm not using any pain meds. One tablet at night just to help me calm down my back enough so I can rest, but I hope to get off of that very soon, so we'll be off of them entirely. I don't like them. They're not healthy,
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I
but sometimes you need them.
don't like the way they make me feel when I wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, so I haven't taken anything today, so I'm good. Unless you see me going out or something, just tell me to wake up.
Hey, I got my second COVID shot today, so if I pass out, you'll know why.
Or if you start growing a third arm out your forehead.
Yeah, depending on what happens there.
Well, John, I've had my first Pfizer shot. Is that what you got, was Pfizer?
I got my second one, and it was the whatever the other one is.
Moderna.
Derna?
Yeah, Derma.
I got pretty sick on the first shot, so
Did you?
uh,
I haven't felt anything. I mean, my shoulder got sore, but I haven't felt anything on either one.
I'm not looking forward to the second shot, but
Mhm.
go get it.
Yeah, life goes on.
Yep.
Hey, Mike, take a Tylenol the morning that you get your shot. That helps take the edge off of it all.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I'll do that. My second shot is May the 3rd.
Yeah, I
Down
did
at the
that
shop.
and I hardly even felt it at all. So,
Good. Well, I hope that's what I experienced too. Is my immune system is built up enough now that I can. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Get going here. First order of business is to review and approve the March 10th minutes that David was nice enough to take for us and submit. I just need a motion to entertain that they're approved. I've read them and liked them.
Motion.
Okay, Newt makes a motion and need a second.
I can second it. I haven't seen them, but I'll second it.
All in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody will stand approved. My internet is really unstable. I'm not keeping you guys on here for a minute go, then it goes like you're all in limbo for a second, but would it be best if I got out and came back in, David, do you think, or?
Are you on Utopia?
No, I'm not.
I mean, not Utopia, but X Mission.
I am on CenturyLink.
Okay.
That will explain everything.
You know, we have this cool thing called fiber in the city.
I'm on lots of meetings and I don't have this experience. It's the first time I've had this go in and out like this, but it's probably time to put the fiber in, get it going.
One thing you could do, Mike, that may help is just turn off your video.
Okay,
And then we won't be able to see you, but we'll still be able to hear you.
But we want to see you.
why isn't that turning off here? Stop video. There, okay. All right, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Minutes will stand approved as unanimously. Any latest breaking things, Chris, that you want to share with us on our budgeting?
I do, yes. I've been working with the mayor the past, well, this week, talking about this current year's budget that we are in. And just trying to get it up here. Dave, you know, is the screen shareable?
Yeah, I made it so that everybody could screen share.
So if I can bring this up here. Give me just a second. Okay. So I'm assuming you guys can see my accounting screen and it just brought up the budget sheet.
Yes.
Yes.
I can make this bigger for everybody. Can't make the type bigger. But I guess I want to just highlight a couple of things first. Speaking of the cameras, well, let's go to the bottom line. So we have raised our property taxes. We had estimated that we'd bring in $706,000, $706,500. That was what the certified tax rate came in last year. But because of homes closed and so forth, we've actually so far brought in $735,344 through March 31st. I'm estimating with this new revised budget that the mayor and I have worked on this week that we're going to bring in roughly about $738,000. So as we've gone through the budget and looked at our revenues and our expenses, we're actually in the positive right now, nearly $71,000 of unspent, unallocated funds for the budget. Now, within this budget here, there is the cameras. So the mayor had me put the cameras in this year's budget. So in this general budget, which we're looking at right here, there's $5,000 for the camera. Then in the water budget, there's $10,000 for the camera. So total of 15 grand in there. Also in this general budget, there's $4,000 for a computer agenda program that Dave's been working on to try and maybe streamline our agendas and things on city council. So Wendy had me put $4,000 in there. David, does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was like $300 a month.
Okay. And then she had me review the documents for the $580,000 loan that we received last year for road repairs and things like that. She was curious if some of that money was set aside for maintenance. And it was talked about at one time that some of that money was set aside for maintenance, but in some of the final documents I read, that was all taken out. And I can't remember, somebody had a question on that, but the $580,000 did not cover any maintenance for this year or the upcoming years. And then she had me leave, there's something like fire, Craig wants to carry over fire training from this year to next year because he didn't spend his money this year. And so that's kind of both budgets, but she's having me leave that in also. She also has approved some raises for the employees also going back to July that they had not received. And so once again, this is all in this budget. We still have almost $71,000 unallocated. So the city can do one of two things. They can put that back into savings, or they could start doing some other expenses, road repairs, whatever in the general budget that the council, votes and approves there.
Did you say, Chris, that the camera is in the budget?
Correct.
Okay.
5,000 out of here, 10,000 out of the water account.
So that leaves us with $70,000 that we can choose what to do with that money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, we talked, and I've been gone, of course, but we talked a while ago about making sure that you get insurance on our city employees too.
Yes.
Is that budgeted in there?
So
Or
this
health
happened,
benefits?
since you were gone, the city's giving 2 employees, myself and Josie Snones, instead of signing up for the insurance, they're giving us 50% of the average cost of the insurance per month that they're paying for the other employees. So we add them up, divide it in half, and that's what Jody and I are receiving. So that way the city doesn't pay the full price and the employers get the benefit.
I just want to make sure that I think that's needed. So I just want to make sure that was taken care of.
Also in this budget is we've hired 2 new employees. Patty Kell, our longtime treasurer, who's been there for a cumulative of about 15 years, is retiring. And so we've hired a new treasurer, which is Lori Thomas. And then we've hired a new deputy recorder to assist Jody, and her name is Marcy, somebody out of Salem. I can't remember her last name, but she seems really sharp.
It's
She's just
Brown.
to the work field. What's her last name?
Brown.
Brown. She's just getting back into the work field after being an MOM for many years, and I think she's going to do really good for the city.
Well, good. We're not used to seeing a positive anywhere, are we? I didn't think that was how government worked.
it happened. I think we were so tight in the beginning of the year, which was extremely good, but then our collections of taxes, if you look down here on this next line, our sales tax are going up, and the benefit of why we're receiving more sales taxes because during COVID, our families like to order from Amazon or Walmart delivery or those kind of things, and we do reap the benefits of those taxes.
So you can thank my wife for that, I'll tell you right
My
now.
wife also, you can thank Bonnie.
Not too far behind you guys.
Just let me mention one other thing, and again, this is in the spirit of training more than anything. But government budgets are a little bit weird in that when we set the budget, which we're trying to do right now for this next year, we're making estimates, and it's the best guess that
Sure.
we can. But then what happens is throughout the year, you get, stuff happens. But the main thing is at the end of the year, we have to zero out our budget. Meaning we cannot leave, like right now we've got $70,000. So we have a few choices that we can make with that $70,000. The one that I like the most is that we put it in one of or multiple of our capital funds. That's the one I like the most.
So let me scroll down to there so you guys can see the different options right now. Dave's
Now,
talking
capital-
about these funds down here.
And capital fund,
Those
capital
are
fund, you can,
essentially
capital fund you can pull out for any purpose, is that correct? Or I guess you do have categories in there.
Yeah. We've gone back and forth, as Chris has pointed out a few times. In years past, we only had one fund. And you're essentially right. You could pull it out for any purpose. But that also makes it kind of hard to track where the money came from. And then there's the flip side of that, where you have a ton of capital funds, everything is down to the very minutia. We didn't want to go that way either. So we're trying to be somewhere in the middle where we have a few capital funds. And the goal of that is to just have it around our big expenses. So fire, snowplow, roads, water, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other option that we have, which Chris has already mentioned, is we can spend the money. And so sometimes we'll do that. A great example is on a year like this year, where we haven't used much salt for the roads, is we'll actually pre-buy salt. Kind of remember, when you were a bishop and you were trying to get a lot of scout equipment, you'd always spend your budget in December on scout stuff. So same deal. We try and spend it for things that we know we're going to need, and we may as well spend the money now.
Sure.
So those are really the options that we have. Did I leave any out, Chris?
And put it in put it in just the general account savings to cover the lawsuit, and that kind of stuff, right, Wayne? Just as a reminder, on the fire chief had asked last year for $50,000 to be put into savings for a future fire truck, and I think we also may have taken some away from part. I believe there might be kind of a larger need for parts, especially that swath that somebody cut right through the middle of the scrub oak in the park, and I believe Greg Witt and his team want to start reseeding and replanting that. But once the word gets out, there's $71,000 left. It'll go fast if we don't determine where to put it.
Put it towards legal fees. Prepaid legal.
Prepaid legal.
Yeah. I like savings. I mean, yeah. Either way, if you prepay something, it's basically saving for next year anyway.
And Corbett usually does do what Dave was talking about with the salt, because Corbett's had about $9,000 left in salt. But this year, he wants to clean that salt shed out. He was approved tentatively to put a little auger device in the salt shed to be able to stack the salt all the way to the top of the ceiling. Right now, they're only getting up about 2/3 of the way. And so he needs to get all that salt out of there, put this auger system in, and we can actually pack more salt in there.
Hmm.
But normally he does what Dave was saying.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any recommendations that you want to pass on to Mike, and Mike can pass on to Wendy, then, maybe send Mike an email in the next couple of days.
Can we sit on this money for a time and see how it goes through the year and see if anything comes up that is really meaningful for the city?
So what, a good thing to do at that point, Mike, is to go ahead and put it into a savings account, get it off the books, and just keep it as kind of an emergency or a slush fund, but don't keep it on the books that tender organizations are going to grab it and try and run with it.
So Chris, we could develop a general savings then and use it for whatever purpose.
We currently do. We're only allowed to carry over 5 to 18% of our money each year by law. If we carry more over, we get a nasty letter from the state auditor. If we carry less over, we get a nasty letter from the state auditor. We have received that nasty letter for probably 4 years in a row because we've saved too much money.
Really?
And Dave, unless things have changed, council just kind of looks at it and says, oh, well, we saved money. Slap our wrists for that.
Yeah.
Their purpose is to overtax their citizens. That's why they do it,
But they're auditing at the end of the year. So if you threw it into a savings now, and then if we figured out a place to put it by the end of the year, then they wouldn't slap our wrists, right?
Yeah, and we'll still be okay by putting it into a savings account.
Oh,
So
okay.
it gets a little more in depth, but we are, because of the property purchase we did, the state gave us $650,000 last year to buy those properties for the mitigation. Well, 2 of the properties didn't close till this budget year. So in reality, I am taking $230,000 out of our savings right now because, and it's right here on this line item, I'm taking it out of our savings right now because it was paid last year, sat in savings. Now we're taking it out to pay on the property that we did in July. So in all reality, that $71,000 would just reduce this $200,000 taken out of savings by another $70,000.
Me personally, I like the idea of put in savings and see how the year goes and see where it needs to be spent. That's my opinion, or leave it in there for the next year. But
If we put in savings, it would be left in there. So I think you're getting the same. Like that.
Chris,
The way
Are
I
they
feel.
truly going to be $15,000? I can't remember what the bid was.
Chris, can you answer a question for me? Is there money right now that's set aside for the remainder of this year for road repairs? Or is that all been expended?
Let's go look at roads real quick. So street general maintenance, there's $30,000 and he spent 1,846. And that looks like that's about it. But let's jump to the new fund we have for roads. And so in here, we have these projects down here. So we still have to finish off the Mitchell's driveway with $1,600. Northview Circle, we've spent $297 of the budgeted $317. We still have Spring Drive, which I understand we may be getting money for that from the DDW, the Department of Drinking Water, to cover that. We have $88,000 to cover the rest of Loafer Drive. That's after Nick Hill's house and connecting halfway to Summit Creek. And then Summit Creek, Steve Dicker told me 2 weeks ago, he's ready to bring the road from Summit Creek over. He wants to get Loafer Drive finished. And then Lower Oak, which $124,000, which I do believe that also is going to come off now, the DDW loan. But those are the road projects. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, so that money's kind of targeted for those specific projects for the remainder of this year.
This year, or we put them in a capital project, so that may take more than 12 months.
Okay, they
Yeah.
can be rolled over then for next year. Okay,
so just to be clear, this money that Chris is showing us right now, this is the bond that we took out for these 4 road projects. And what we did, just because we wanted to be able to track it, is we actually kind of subdivided the different projects and then put a budget against them. And as Chris has shown, in some cases we were able to be less than the budget, in other cases more. And we're going to move this around. So that's one of the things. And Wayne, the Public Works Committee is coming up with a new list of projects. And this is why. Because if we don't do West Loafer out of this money and we don't do Spring Drive out of this money, excuse me, if we don't do Spring and Lower Oak out of this money, then that's, 124 and yeah, basically $250,000 that we can now put towards other projects.
Or,
Or we can pay off the bond early. I mean, there's options, but I'm just saying that's kind of what we could do. Then you go back to the other column where he was showing the $30,000. That's what I call operations money. And that just is our yearly budget. And that's the one, these are the budget categories that we have to zero out before July. So everything has to go to zero by the end of July.
July to June.
Excuse me, by the end of June. But the bond money, we don't have to do that with. The bond money is in a capital fund, so we can keep that around for as long as we want.
okay, yeah, I didn't realize that all that other money was bond money targeted for different road projects. I thought some of it was regular budget money. So appreciate the explanation.
No, and I don't know where Wendy and Chris have gone, because as a council member, all I do is kind of give my opinion, and then, the mayor and Chris kind of work together and come up with a budget. But one of the concerns that I had is like in the budget proposal. So now this is the next budget. Corbett had put in there a category for like $124,000 or whatever, for covering the road. Basically, it would be adding a layer on top of some of the roads.
You're down the 170, 600.
Yeah, that's 171. And what Corbett had done, which I want to be clear that I'm not in any way criticizing Corbett. Corbett is a genius when it comes to saving our city money. So what he did is he basically took all of the roads in Woodland Hills, all of the public roads, put them on a 10-year resurfacing schedule, and then divided up those miles by, like I said, by the 10 years. So basically each year we would do 1/10 of the city. And then he calculated how much that would be, and that would be 171. The problem that I have with that is that this Class C road funds is what we took our bond out against. And the idea was that what we were going to do is we were going to basically try and do more roads in a shorter period of time. And then I believe that was a 5-year bond. Am I correct there, Chris?
Yes.
So essentially we took out a bond for 5 years worth of road funds. And as I recall, we maxed out the amount of leverage, borrowing capacity that we had against the road funds. So I don't know where this 171 was going to come from.
So we could have gotten about $980,000 off of that note with our leveraging power. One thing we could do, and maybe this is semantics, Dave, but we could take this 171, put it up here with the 30,000, then it doesn't show it's coming from Class C road funds. And I don't know if that gets you, that makes it any better or worse. It's still the same money.
What I told Wendy I'd rather do, and again, I am one vote and I am one opinion. I'm not the whole, I don't drive the whole thing. But what I would rather do is get rid of that 171 altogether, and instead take it out of the bond money that we have, and just say, okay, we're going to accelerate that, and maybe we do 2/10 of the city this year, or 3/10, whatever we can do with the amount remaining.
There's one other thing to consider, is that the loan that the DDW is going to give us, we are going to finish a lot of roads this year and the next year, like Oak, Spring, Broad Hollow, Lower Oak. There's going to be plenty that would show good faith that the city's doing something there. So to go to your point,
Yeah.
So
So-
why are we holding out? Why are we holding out 171? I guess.
so this was presented in the budget hearing. I believe it's the only one that's made a comment on it that I know of. And so it's just kind of, it's working itself right now.
Well, I don't know why you couldn't set it up under their general maintenance fund then and just put it in that category. Because we got plenty of road work to do in the city.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, just so that we keep, and this is my mind, and I apologize, but this is just the way my brain works, is I'd rather exhaust the bond money before we start taking out operational money. Just because then I can say, okay, we got a bond for X number of dollars, and here's the projects we did. There you go. And it's very easy to let the residents know this is what you just bought by letting us do the bond. And then, as Paul had laid out, in 5 years, we'll do the same thing again. We will get another bond. And this is assuming that interest rates are as good as they are right now. But we'll then fund another set of 5 years worth of projects and get them done as quickly as we can. So the idea is to try and accelerate it in 5-year blocks.
Sorry, David, I think that the loan may be longer. The city wanted to pay it off in 5 years. But I'm not sure it is amortized over 5 years. So I'm just trying to find it. Sorry, you guys are having to jump around. Okay, so here it is. Goes from 2020 to 20. It's a 10-year note. And we were trying to get it paid off in 5.
Okay.
So we even have a line item on the budget to pay it off, additional principal, but we're not budgeting anything for that right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So right now, we would not be able to pay it off in 5 years.
No, we're just barely making them. We're just making the 10-year payment.
Okay, then I would strongly recommend we budget for the 5-year plan.
So you'd use that 171,000 to help with that.
To jump it up. And you'll look on this note, sorry to jump back and forth, but if you look on this note, we have, where to go? We have, the interest rate, if I remember right, is lower in the beginning few years, and then it escalates. Yeah, so the first year it's only 1%, then it jumps to 1.25, then 1.5, and so forth. So the incentive is to get it paid off sooner with less interest.
Absolutely. Let's pay that puppy off as quick as we can.
So the payment's only, right now, it's $50,000 twice a year. Is that what that is?
Well, so,
Approximately?
yeah,
So that's 100K.
well, so it's kind of interesting. They have us pay interest twice a year and principal once a year. So that's where the different amounts are. So this is really,
Oh, okay. So it's not 100K. It's 52 plus 6
yeah, it'd be 59
a year.
59,112 the first year.
Right. Got it.
Yeah, because interest goes up.
But that's based on paying it off in 10 years.
Correct,
So to do it in 5, you basically have to a little less than double that.
correct.
Yeah, we'd save ourselves a lot of money in the city to pay it off early, obviously.
Well, we're not paying a lot in
Paying off
interest.
things as quick as we can. And not be under debt load.
There's one more thing I think you guys need to consider, and David, if you don't want me to go down this rat hole, I won't. But we've got this lawsuit in the city right now, and the city is forking out a roughly $10,000 to $15,000 per month to attorneys in fighting it. And that doesn't include, some of the employees' time that have to deal with it. But through the rest of the year, I'll get the lawyer fees up here. Wrong year. Sorry. This is next budget year. Currently, we're budgeting next year $132,000 alone for attorney fees, and most of that's going to deal with the lawsuit. The rest of this current year that we're in, we're budgeting, I think it's 35,000. Oh, excuse me, 65,000 the rest of this year to cover that lawsuit.
Yeah, I think it's been running about 12,000 a month for attorney's fees.
So I just want to make you guys aware that that's kind of, we've had a free attorney for years and years. He has retired. And then this lawsuit came about. And so we've kind of got double whacked.
So are we just planning that to go forth for a whole year next year?
As of right now, at least the next year.
We're just counting on that, huh? Wow.
Well,
Now
and
this lawsuit, though, even if you win, then you're not getting any money back, right? This is just a straight loss.
Right now, there's just attorney's fees that we're paying to meet the city needs. We're not in court or anything else specifically, although there are hearings off and on. But if we go to court full time, those costs are going to multiply.
Sure.
well, and I think it's important. We keep talking about it as a lawsuit, and it's really not a lawsuit. There certainly is one lawsuit, but this family has basically been taking the city to any venue that they can get a hearing. So they've been going to the appeals board. They now want the IRC. I can't remember all the acronyms.
IBC.
board. They want. They've been contacting state agencies and asking state agencies to rule against the city for various things. They've gone to the Grandma Appeals Board. So it's not just one lawsuit, it's really multiple actions, all filed by, one family.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And there's no end in sight at this point.
I think the city's been taking more of the approach that we're really the neutral party in this. And, somehow that we're really a neutral party and needs to be between the neighbors, but I think they've had some challenges with the codes and those kinds of things. So they're still pursuing things.
Well, is there something as a city then, from a financial point, that you need from us on this, David, from a city council perspective? And Chris, is there something from the financial committee you need from us on it? Is there
There's-
anything we need to look at here other than that's $130,000, whatever is 20,000 that's budgeted for next year?
So there's a recommendation from a citizen that this $132,000, we're really taking that out of our savings. So our savings has got not a finite amount of money, but we've got a chunk of money in there. And the citizens recommend, maybe we need to not just take it out of savings, but take it out of the roads account or take it somewhere where so we're not taking the city, we're having to cut something out.
Yeah.
I don't, long-term wise, I don't think that's a good answer. If we felt like this was gonna be over in a year, maybe that's not a bad move, but still.
I think it's making awareness.
Well, we're getting big enough as a city now that we might face a few lawsuits down the road. Who knows? We hope not, but if we do, we've got to have some strategy behind that financially to be able to sustain it.
This is about 12% of our budget roughly that's going to go just for one lawsuit. I hope it doesn't continue.
Well, I don't have good connection here. I'm gonna
Yeah, I don't really think, to answer your question, Mike, that there's much that the committee can do about this. It was more, I think, informational, and then also understand kind of why we're being so conservative in a few other areas. Like it would be wonderful to be able to say, yeah, let's let's spend $200,000 on extending or building a new public works building or something like that. That would be ideal if we could do that. But right now we just, with a big bill that you don't know where in the end is going to be, then you tend to be conservative when it comes to your finances.
Yeah.
I should say. It's one thing I detest is lawsuits, and I wish they could be settled a long ways away from the court.
Well, unfortunately, this one is, it sounds like,
Yeah,
but that's not helping us.
I
So,
know, and so we've got, that's what I say, we have to have enough money planned on to sustain
yeah, I agree.
legal actions like this, to have a legal account. And what you're saying, David, is you want to see it come out of savings. I'm just getting chopped up pieces here.
I know that it has been recommended that we take it out of roads or something, but I know this sounds maybe bad, but I definitely want all of the citizens to know that this is going on. I don't want to have any hidden numbers or anything like that. But at the same time, I don't want to punish the other citizens for the actions of a few. I think
Right,
that's
absolutely
that.
not.
I don't like that
Nor
approach.
should they be punished.
So what I would rather do is I would rather just make sure that we're we're communicating, we're letting the residents know, hey, this is happening, and we can sustain this for 1 year because past councils have been very careful with the money. But you know, if this went on for multiple years, we would have to dramatically change how we fund these legal expenses.
But I agree, going forward, we probably need to be building up a fund for these type things too. Not to that level maybe, but still.
Has our attorney given us an indication what, from a legal standpoint, he places us as a city in any liability issues or anything like that?
That would probably be an executive session type discussion, just because this is all public.
Yeah, all right. I'm just thinking about it from a financial point to know what we can expect in the future. If he would tell us this is going to be in court for a while, of course, I don't think maybe attorneys can tell us that. I don't know. So
No, and just to give you an idea, and I'm going to try and stay away from any executive session stuff, but as far as dragging this out, that's the other party is the one dragging it out. Like, we were ready to actually have a hearing on this as soon as possible, but the other party asked for more time. So, you know, that's the problem, is you're kind of at the mercy of not just the court, but you're at the mercy of the other person and so forth. So anyway, we're as a city, we're doing everything we can, not only to how do I say this? We're trying to work this out without animosity and without anger, and just try and be as fair as we can. You know, we really feel like we are the referee that's getting yelled at. And I get that, having been a referee for several sporting events. I understand that that's sometimes the role, but at the same time, it's a little tough because we're, you know, all of a sudden we're to blame for everything in the world. And we're like, wait a minute, we just made a call. So, and we were trying to follow the rules.
And it's costing us $12K a month to be the referee.
Yeah. And believe me, refs don't get paid that much, and neither do cities.
Well, I think from my personal standpoint, the line item that it's under right now is appropriate. It's transparent. And where the money comes from, is up to the city council, but I don't know how we as a committee would recommend on that, but I like the idea personally of it coming out of a slush fund or a general fund somewhere that we're putting away for rainy days like this. This is more of a rainy day to me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think the rainy.
So
day-
from this point, do you want a recommendation from the committee on that, or is it
It was just more informative.
more, okay, just informative?
I think the rainy day fund, and just to kind of maybe put this in a different light, is the city's on fire, and each tanker drop is $15,000, and we get 10 of those, and it's within the city. Nobody pays for it but the citizens. I think that's kind of the rainy day, not the
Yeah,
on attorney fees. And I think that's why there's maybe some wisdom into looking at cutting some other services away. Maybe not this year, but in the future year. Just
A lot of it depends. I agree. A lot of this depends on how long this is going to continue. And of course, we don't know, but hopefully this will end this year and we're out of it.
Well, I'm sorry,
What's
Mr.
our normal
Chairman.
spend on legal with outside of this lawsuit? Do we just spend $5K a year or $20K a year or what?
So you can see here we spent 2019 zero,
zero.
'Cause that's
2020.
because we had an attorney working for us for free that's gone. That's not gonna, what's the thought going forward? Outside of the lawsuit?
Yeah, so let me further explain what we mean by a free attorney. So the city spends a certain amount of money to belong to something called the Utah League of Cities and Towns, ULTC. It's basically a group of all the cities that are within Utah. And that league had this attorney, and he was just a really good guy that was willing to do a lot of pro bono work because he was being paid for by the league. And so that's why he was willing to do so much pro bono work. And he really was super helpful to small cities like us that don't have a legal department, because we could just call him up and ask him a question and he'd be fine. The thing that he was not in a position to do was when this turned from an occasional question to literally a barrage and then quickly a flood of questions and things. Then all of a sudden he was like, that's not really my role. So that was when the city in the month of November essentially went and started looking for another firm that could better handle this on a day-by-day basis, which is what it had become. And so that's when we got this other attorney that is currently working with the city.
And the other attorney decided to retire. Our
And
first attorney.
David Church decided to retire from the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And anyway,
Super smart.
In the end, it's not like we have a choice. I mean, it's what you got to do, and budget for it a little bit more maybe for the upcoming years.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that was maybe more than you wanted to discuss in my first line item, but there you go.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Next item on our agenda is, I think the review of department budgets, I think that's pretty well taken care of with everything. They've all been submitted, and the council, has the council approved it yet, David, or are they still waiting?
no, we had the budget retreat, which is where we found out what all those requests were. And Wendy and Chris, I should really say both of them, they actually put it in a budget that they then gave to us so that we could then comment on it. And I submitted my comments last week. I don't know if any other council members have submitted their comments. And then what Wendy and Chris will do is they'll digest those comments and then have a budget proposal. And I'm thinking the first meeting in May is when we'll get that, and then we have to approve it. And I think we have to approve it by the first meeting in June, or if there's going to be a truth in taxation, then we can delay that till August.
So, yep, I just read the statute. They changed the statute this year to September 1st. But it does say the city council may adopt a tentative budget or approve one by September 1.
So, and I think this committee's aware of this. We did a truth in taxation hearing last year, but it was because we wanted to hold the certified tax rate the same. And that was essentially what I proposed to Wendy again this year, is that we do the exact same thing. It technically is a tax increase, but it's the only way that we can recoup the costs from the new construction that's taken place. Otherwise, what happens is the county lowers our certified tax rate, and that doesn't really help us cover the additional expenses. So, my vote is that we keep the tax rate the same, which is technically an increase, but for most homeowners, they won't really see much of an increase.
Wendy's trying to get about a 3% overall for property taxes increase.
%3 is not too bad.
Anyway, that's all the background on that.
Oh, thank you. Interesting. We lost our humble leader, it looks like.
When did Mike say the camera guy was going to be jumping on the meeting?
At 8:30, so it was almost a half hour ago. Let me tell you what I told Mike and what I found while Mike's looking for the camera guy. Can you hear us okay, Mike?
Yes.
I'm going to say a few words on this technology because I was, of course, working with LiveView, and their system is unbelievable. And we had a great deal going up until about a little over a month ago, when they sold the company.
Oh,
For, well, ungodly amounts of money. But I finally got my quote on 3 cameras, and they're standalone cameras. They're awesome cameras. But we would be paying for 3 cameras about $5,100 a month. That's what I said. So I told them to take a hike. But the problem is, when we first started talking, we were talking 900 to 1,000, maybe 1,500 for these 3. But so we could go back and look at that if you guys want, but quite honestly, I think that's crazy. They do everything, but I think it's crazy amounts.
I know that I like the idea of having someone else have the expertise. So basically leasing the equipment with all the support otherwise we'll have to train Jody or Chris or Craig or Corbett to be a camera expert. And I don't know that we want to do that. And that's what I liked about the idea of what you're presenting, John. Hopefully, I wonder if there's other options we could look at. I
don't know of a lot. I'm sure there are, but it depends on how big or how much of a system you do. Like I said, these systems, they'll notify you when there's motions, and they'll talk. You can talk to whoever, get off my property. You can do whatever you want that way. It's like I said, they're kind of amazing. But as far as just a camera and recording, and probably motion detection. I don't think if you stay basic, I can't imagine, I guess we'll find out soon, but I can't imagine that would take a whole lot of updating.
But just
I could be wrong, but
for perspective, we've had Classroom Smart's Skywire system for about 8 years now. Pretty simple to use. I get it on my iPhone. We can record or cut, or like when we had those kids playing with the water tank, we were able to cut and paste and send it to the sheriff. Also, I think some of it was, I think the sheriff forwarded onto one of the news stations. So as far as a learning curve new, I think we've been using it for about 5 or 6 years. I do like,
if you keep it simple, like what I have here at my house, the same type of thing, I don't need to have it monitored, but for $1,000, $1,500, what I was hoping for, it was one well of a system.
oh,
But yeah, they ended up selling for 600-700 million or something. But
we might have to ask this Ryan guy to see if there's motion detection and what kind of services they have, and if somebody gets notified. I don't know.
yeah,
The other
Yeah.
question I had, and again, this is kind of just brainstorming, is I know that Summit Creek has also got a system, or is putting in a security system. And I wondered if there could be any economies of scale there by, somehow coming together on that kind of a system that we could work together. Anyway,
okay, Mike. And I wonder if they do have one. I know they had one. They had cameras and stuff down there at the mailboxes, and they were vandalized or taken out or something. They're no longer there. I was talking to Bucky about it just about 2 weeks ago. And unless they're going to do something new at the clubhouse and stuff, I don't think they have any security system at this point.
They have one at the clubhouse.
Okay, they have something at the clubhouse. Huh?
And
Do they have
one-
cameras at the clubhouse, or do they just have alarm?
They have one that is on their clubhouse or one of their buildings that is internet monitored. But the one at the mailboxes is not. It's just
Okay.
come and go. They do have one at their mailboxes.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, maybe there is piggybacking. I can talk to Bucky and see what he's got planned for future. I know that they're trying to
I
do
think we
more
should
stuff.
coordinate on that if we could
Well,
maybe get a better deal for both of us.
I actually think, again, this is the way my brain works, is I can't imagine that our sheriff would want to have to go into 2 different systems
Right.
to monitor things or to try and find license plates or whatever.
No, agreed.
But at the same time, I don't want to impede anything that Summit Creek's trying to do. So, if there is a win-win, then I'd be happy to do it and participate in it. If there's not, then that's fine. We just move on.
I'll talk to Bucky tomorrow and ask him what he's got going or what his plans are.
Who's Bucky?
I'm sorry, Bucky is the developer here at Summit Creek.
Bucky Gay. His
Yeah.
last name's Gay.
Okay.
I talked to him today, John.
Oh, did you about this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he give you any idea of what he's planning going forward?
He's not. He didn't give me any indication. So that would be something that good to talk to him about. I was just trying to find out what he had in place right now.
Okay.
They're expanding their community projects down there. They call it amenity center. They're going to be putting in some water features, pickleball court, tennis ball court, some other things related to that. And I could easily see them wanting to add possibly some added security functions to kind of monitor some of that thing. So they may have some future plans that would coincide with maybe some of the interests that the city would have.
And I think it's smart to have it on the same system as the city. I think it's silly not to. if it can work out, be a lot nicer, be easier.
I had a good talk with Val Wilding about this bid that we've received from Skywire Technologies, and he's comfortable with it. And I think, Chris, you're probably comfortable with it.
So basically what we're looking at there would be $30,800. And Chris, were you saying that the mayor had put that in this year's budget, or is that what?
She put 15,000 in this year's budget.
Okay, so 15,000.
Yep.
So
And then-
are we
and
gonna,
then-
hold,
she had-
can we bring two budgets together next year, or do we want to find some money somewhere and go forward with it this year? When the budget starts.
Well, there was money in next year's budget for this as well, wasn't there? Didn't we say that we had something coming out of roads? Or something? Didn't we say we had 2 line items for this cameras?
Checking right now. Give me just a second.
While you're looking that up, Chris, I text Ryan and he said he would be on at 8:30 tonight, and he's not texting me back or communicating with me, so I don't know what's going on.
You've been ghosted.
I've been ghosted, ghost busted.
Blame it on the internet.
Okay. Mike, we're gonna have to introduce you to Utopia.
This is the worst meeting I've had, not you guys, it's the internet, and I'm only getting maybe a third of what you're saying.
Hey, Mike, I'm on CenturyLink and I'm doing fine. So maybe it's something with your system particularly.
Maybe it's that Bonnie's watching Netflix or something. I don't know.
Right off the top, I'm not seeing anything out of the general account for cameras. Just going through water right now.
We talked about it at the summit, but I didn't think we had put a number in because we were still waiting to get one. So that was one of those tentative things that's not yet put into the budget, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the water either.
But it looks like the planning was half in 2021 and half in 2022, maybe. Is that if we were going to do 30,008 or whatever?
She only told me 15. I couldn't remember the quote. I'm not actually sure I've seen that quote. I may have.
So I may be
Is
the
that-
same for the 15 because that was the number that we had, the estimate that I think I'd heard John say that last time that we talked about this. And so in the email that I sent to the mayor, as I said, we forgot to put money in for the security cameras. And as I recall, it was 15,000. So that might be where she's getting that number from. And we just need to correct that with this bid that we've got.
So that bid is how much? 30 total?
787 or something like that was.
30,000.
7, yeah, so basically 31,000.
And Ryan was telling me that the prices on that have probably gone up somewhat because of materials. So that's probably a little bit low now. So
Yeah.
I think we'd want to plan on about 35,000. Now, a question I have, David and Chris, maybe you can answer this, is on Summit Creek. Would we be paying for cameras to go into there for Summit Creek? Or how does that work in terms of budgeting? I'm not sure. I totally understand that.
I don't think there's any, in this 30,000, there's any cameras for Summit Creek. If Summit Creek put them in on their own dime, then obviously they own them. If the city put them in on our dime, I'm not sure, because of the government relationship that we would give anybody access to those cameras. I mean, so private party, yes, but government given private party access, I don't think that would be very good.
Yeah.
But But they would be considered part of our city, correct, Chris?
Yeah, and the last I talked to when Don Meekin was doing it, he was gonna give us access to those cameras at the mailboxes, but it doesn't sound like maybe those.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Summit Creek for the city to pay to put those into Summit Creek, just like I would never expect Summit Creek to pay to like put them up at our water tank or in the park. I think what I was really looking for is, you know, not so much the camera expense, but more the monitoring and whatever the hosting software is, if we could collaborate on that, just so that we have a single system that could monitor the whole city. But Chris brings up a really good point. You know, that may not work out because, you know, would we give Bucky access so that he could see the water tank or, you know, the city park or stuff like that? You know, that may not work out. So anyway.
Yeah, and if they already have a system, I mean, I know the ones at the mailbox aren't working, but if they already have some kind of a system, I'm not sure the city really, I mean, we could get another quote, but I'm not sure the city needs to conform just because of that,
Yeah.
especially where it's not really shared.
David, he's going to jump on right now. I just got a text from him. He apologized. He's got delayed on a job project that he's doing, and where my internet connection isn't the best. Would you kind of head up that with him when he'll be on in a minute, he said.
Okay.
So,
Well, do you want to go to the next item while we wait for him?
yeah, that the one thing I had on there was the phase 2, phase 3 water. We had discussed the opportunity to obtain stimulus money. Has that progressed any further with Carrie working on that? Do you know?
I haven't heard any more. As you may have heard in the news, President Biden put together a almost $3 trillion infrastructure package, and it's now working its way through Congress. Seems like the federal government has plenty of money. So if we can get a piece of that, we certainly will try, but I think that's months, if not a year out before we could get any resolution on that.
Well, obviously it's our money, so we want to go for as much of it as we possibly can get that's reasonable.
Man.
As long as their printer doesn't run out of ink when they're printing all this. So.
They didn't budget for ink.
They're now planting money trees.
That's your grandkids.
Actually, they're sending little plastic pieces of credit cards in the mail. That's what they're doing for. At least my kids got them all.
I don't know. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. But I'm the wrong person because I actually live within my budget.
But the stimulus that came out that was just approved a month or two ago had some infrastructure money built into it. And that was the money that Carrie was going to be asking for as soon as it was decided upon what the state was going to do with it. And so that was, and this is before any kind of infrastructure. We'll put that in quotation marks because it's broader than that. But so this is money that's already approved, that's already made it through Congress. We're just hoping we can get our hands on some of that and maybe help offset some of these costs for the water lines or.
And that may be true, Newt. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you might be right.
Yeah, that was what Carrie told me. I talked to her about it at the summit. Was that what we call it? The budget retreat, excuse me, the budget retreat. And that was the money she was pursuing. So
that was part of that $1,400 that everybody got.
Right.
You know, there was a whole lot additional that they're supposed to be funneling out to state governments, et cetera. And I agree that I think that was where that pot of money was coming from.
But back to the water lines, I'm kind of curious in this phase, this next phase, what the age of the lines are and what's the differences, so we can figure out if it needs to be something we're pursuing for next fiscal year, or if it's something we can push down the road a little ways, or isn't that what we're going to talk about, Mike?
Yeah, and I think we had decided that we would probably put it on hold at least maybe until midsummer and then revisit it and see where we're at. What's the best thing to do here?
So
Chris?
phase 2 has a lot of pipe that is really old and is also the 6-inch pipe, not the 8-inch pipe. So phase 2 definitely needs to be done. Phase 3, based on our conversation last month, I don't feel needs to be done for another probably 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's Thousand Oaks up where I live, and those lines are not as old as the ones we're replacing, but
Yeah, they
I
were.
think we're gonna be okay up here, but down there, yeah, we need to be. I think, is it your feeling, David, that you'd like to go forward with this project and get it done this summer?
I'm not thinking that it needs to be done this summer. It needs to be done as quickly as we can, but again, it's money. I don't feel like we have additional money in our water fund, which is where that would mostly come from. I don't know, Chris, am I wrong in saying that?
Where'd my video go? In talking with Ted, it appears that this next project is going to be in the 4.5 to almost $7 million range, depending on the scope and the size. So it's significantly gonna, and I think Mike, you may have been in
Oh,
that.
I thought it was about 3.5, Chris.
I could be wrong on that, but all I know is it was going to be about double the size, and they were trying to figure out how much we would potentially have to raise everybody's rates to. And we haven't even had one billing cycle yet through the whole year. So there's gonna be a lot of surprised people coming up when they start watering their lawns right now and seeing
Yeah.
how much their rates have jumped.
Can I make a recommendation that we put that on hold until we go through a 1 year of rate increases here in the water rates, and then we visit it at that time, see where we're at.
And I agree with that, because quite honestly, I don't think we can do anything with the phase 2 without raising again. It doesn't sound like.
It won't happen without raising again. We're going.
And
to raise it again.
And I'd like to get as much time in there as we can between the two. But I agree, it's got to be a priority, because it can't just keep going.
Okay, gentlemen, we've got, Ryan has joined us.
Hello.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
How are you?
Interrupt you, David. We'll come back to you. Well, we've got Ryan on here. Ryan, we've been visiting about security cameras.
Sorry that it took me a minute to get on. I actually was wrapping up a project. So, hey, Chris.
Ryan, how you doing?
Good.
Just want to make it known for the record that I do deal with Ryan and other projects. He does most of our, he does all of our schools. He also has already done the phase 1 of the city project, and they've been very responsive to anything, anytime, any questions. This has probably been his 4th time bidding this out now for the city. He's been up in the city 4 times, just double checking everything. But throughout the years, we've asked his firm many times to quote us. So this is not his first time doing this.
Well, thank you. And we're sorry this is the 4th time. Maybe that's a charm. We'll see how that goes. And we're hoping we can get these projects approved and going. And so can you just go through, Ryan, and explain what you've bid out so far of your understanding? And we know that you mentioned to me today that, prices are subject to change, obviously. We understand what's happening in the market, but with building costs and things. But would you just go through that and explain that to us? Would you be able to do that?
So I think really just, when going through the proposals that I've sent back to you guys from like the most recent stuff that we have on here, I think the biggest things with cameras are there's a tons of different types of options. I think before we're kind of jumping maybe into the proposals, I think the easiest thing to kind of discuss first is and this is really what Chris and I have extensively talked about, is what is the overall intention, because you can always scale back on any proposal. I think we decided when we were going through this, we wanted to put a lot of PTZs in because we wanted to, as far as getting footage and trying to accomplish. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what PTZ stands for, but PTZ stands for pan tilt zoom, which allows you to pretty much, you can adjust your view. It's not a fixed camera. You're not getting like one fixed view, one fixed angle. Now, really, all of these proposals can be scaled back as needed. I think it really ultimately just depends on the budget. And I know I did mention to you on the phone that we were discussing pricing, but like I said, pricing can even go down in regards to this. It all just really depends on what we're trying to accomplish. And so I built these proposals based off of many discussions with Chris. And so I think really ultimately, I don't even know if there's any of this stuff that's been maybe removed or not removed. And so maybe that would help me to tell you if we're even wanting to do some of this stuff to begin with. So I don't know if maybe, because like I said, I have it all labeled out as water tower, firehouse. They're all labeled per each section. And so I don't know if you want me to go per line item. I mean, we can go through it, but realistically, I think we just need to discuss if you guys are wanting. I mean, in the end, what's the ultimate goal for cameras? Is the cameras for vandalism? And if it's just vandalism, are you wanting to catch people in the moment? Are you wanting, and I think we kind of discussed earlier too about the monitoring of the cameras. And so maybe kind of tell me what the ultimate goal is, and then I can maybe tell you exactly what the cameras and whatnot, what we have spec'd in here.
I haven't spoken with Craig, our public safety officer, but I'm betting that this is what he would tell me, is that the firehouse and the water system would be priority number one.
Okay.
Number two would be, what do we have down there as number two? Can you scroll up a little bit, David, on that?
Yep.
Right.
It's gotta be the water tanks.
So yeah, the water tank and the firehouse are probably
Oh,
priority.
gotcha.
The mailboxes, maybe. I think maybe even ahead of that would be the park area. And some of the riffraff we get there and things that we want to monitor might be good for us to have surveillance of that. I think the mailboxes might be the last priority.
Did you say that these cameras, you can move them and turn them around and things like that? Is that what you currently have in this?
So
Yeah.
so that's what a PTZ stands for. So
Yeah.
To kind of discuss, so to give you an example, like Chris mentioned, we do commercial buildings around the whole country. Typically we do a lot of schools in the summertime, a lot of hotels. Usually on I would attribute a city parks and things of that nature, really no different than a school setting. The only difference is you're talking about multiple locations. The reason why the pricing on some of this gets a little complicated is because you got to think about, we're pretty much setting up kind of a little network in every little area. And so by doing so, we have to make sure, power's there, that we got data cabling there. We have a place where we're going to be able to mount the NVR. If not, we have to be able to get, the data back to another location where, like the NVR stands for the network video recorder. So we can have, we don't want people messing with the footage. But as far as the camera, your question regarding the camera, so PTZs, and the reason why I said you can scale back, it all really depends on, think about a PTZ. So these are actually really high-end PTZs because of the size of area like on some of these parks, and because you guys have a lot of scrub oak everywhere, you really need something high resolution and something that's going to get farther distance. Now, if we're wanting to do more of an economical approach to this, you can shed back quite a bit of amount of money by just doing very economical cameras. They're fixed lenses. They're not going to get very far distance. They're not going to get you. I mean, they're still going to be high resolution. They're just not going to be able to get you the distance and the clarity that you would be wanting. And then the benefit of doing pan tilt zoom allows you to later, if you want to get footage, you can zoom. That's where this 36x zoom, these, the high dark fighter. The other advantage you get to high PTZ cameras is instead of just having an IR lens on them, you also have basically a dark night fighter lens that's built for seeing images other than just seeing a glare. And Chris, you probably have an example of trying to get footage back from a school or somewhere. Like if you were to go get footage back from some of your schools in other areas, if it's not very lit very well, or yes, you can see the image, but you're not going to get the clarity that you'd want on. And so once again, it gets back to, I think working around a budget helps, because then it's like, okay, we're trying to accomplish these 3 things in this area, and by doing so, we can do this camera, and this NVR if we want. Like, because really the 4 things we're trying to address are do we have enough footage as far as time? So we need to build the NVR, and the NVR also needs to be able to handle the type of camera. So if we do really high resolution cameras, so those are really the things that we need to address. So if you would like, we could go through the line items, or what I could do is I could talk to one of you guys at another time after this phone call, and we could go through each line item, but maybe just address the bigger questions now of what the ultimate goal would be for each area, or what's the most important, I guess, would be the first question that I'd have.
Let's talk PTZ real quick. That was a request. We currently have this point, we call it point tilt zoom, but this camera that the fire department can control. So when there's lightning storms or when we get paged out to fires, we have certain wives get on and they can pinpoint the fire for us. Because a lot of times they say there's a brush fire and we don't know where it is. So, and then they also can reverse the cameras and go around. That's been the biggest benefit of this point tilt zoom. Sorry, whatever it's called, camera.
And tilt zoom, yeah, you're good.
And tilt zoom camera. They are more expensive. They are higher res. Some of the other things that we've been concerned about is like we've had some pine trees stolen. They go and dig up yards and steal pine trees. And so we've actually caught the footage of some guy in a white Toyota truck throwing firecrackers out. We caught it barely on the fire station camera, but it was enough that the sheriff was able to get some identifying information. Had it been a higher resolution, we could have gotten the license plate off it.
Right. And speaking of license plates too, there's actually specific cameras too that actually can take images of license plates now. It's specifically designed for license plates. It's actually pretty cool there. I haven't had a chance to talk to you recently since then, but there's quite a few things that have come out with camera technology in the last year. And so that's one of them. So coming in and out of locations, and if, people driving by the fire station, whatever, if you guys are looking to catch license plates or different things in different areas, that's something we could do, or we could look at also. But really the sky's the limit with cameras. You can do pretty much anything you want to do nowadays. There's a camera for it. If you have an idea, there is one. It's just, like I said, I think ultimately gets back to, as an example with the pan tilt zoom, yes, you can solve those problems, but you are basically in essence paying the price of 4 or 5 good cameras to get one really nice camera in, but it does accomplish the role of 4 or 5 cameras. So if you treat it that way, if you guys look through these proposals, that's basically how the difference between a pan tilt zoom versus just standard cameras. The pricing is basically in essence what 4 or 5 cameras would be doing. That's why you get the full 360 and pretty much the zoom functions and all that. So,
but you have to monitor that 360, right? You have to turn it. I mean, somebody has to be on there.
Right. So if you have multiple people that are logging in and they're adjusting it, it's going to basically, you can have them timed to come back to location when people are using them. But yes, if you guys have like 30 people have access to them and they're logging in and moving them all the time, then yes, it's getting the footage that you're seeing, but it's also, once again, the distance and circumference of the image is much greater than a fixed lens. Like, to give you an example, so back in the day before they came up with like megapixels, it was different types of resolution. There's 10 different kinds, but the different type of lens depending on how far, like on a fixed lens, depending on how far zoomed the lens is the size of millimeter of the lens. And so on a pan tilt zoom, you don't have that function because the zoom allows itself to always catch those images when it comes in and out. So that's where the advantage is you still have the full circumference of view, except for and the advantage is you're also able to zoom. So it's taking both of those images at the same time. Now,
good.
the downfall is though, people can, if you guys have a lot of people have access to it and are zooming and moving it all the time, then yes, your image is going to be compromised some. And I think it just making sure that there's not a million people has access to it or that are not putting it back to where it belongs would be really the only thing that would need to be discussed.
And there's only 4 people currently have access to it because there are privacy issues with this because of the Zoom feature. And so there's only 4 accountable people for it.
Perfect.
Well, I would assume, Ryan, that when this is a 24-hour monitoring system, so if we have an incident that we know occurred on a given night, we can go back and scan that camera for that time frame that we think it happened.
Correct. And if you guys have somebody we can train, if not, I can write up like a very simple package that's either an hourly thing or a monthly thing, or however you guys would like that to be done from a support side, that if you guys need us to get footage from an incident from a specific amount of time or whatever, I can have somebody on part of my team that can handle and take care of that. Or if you guys want us to train somebody internally to take care of that, either option's fine with us. So
Okay.
I have, just to give you an example,
Any
I
other
have
questions?
probably
You guys? 5,000
MDRs we've deployed in the last couple of years. So anyway.
Oh, wow. Are we planning on putting this on the city website so people can see these cameras? Well, not adjust them, of course, or is this just going to be internal?
There's 1 camera we're looking to put on the website, and that's or 2. We could put the fire station at the ground, and then the mailboxes just to see if there's Oh, and it's on the website right now.
And the benefit for that is you can tell whether it's snowing.
Yeah. Nice.
I think our city has grown to a point now that we need to get serious about this and make a decision.
I think the decision's made. I mean, as far as adjusting, I think it's good to get a good quality camera that you can see. Otherwise, it's pointless.
I agree.
And that sounds like the way to go. I'd hate to spend that kind of money and then we can't even see your
Right.
license plate.
Well, just to touch on that note really quick, I agree with you there. I think when you're dealing with all of these cameras being external cameras, so if a lot of these were just like an inside a building camera and it was economical, you just could put cameras everywhere. You don't really need to spend a lot of money. I mean, you can it's easier to just put more cameras. But when you're dealing with outside, you're dealing with, especially Woodland Hills, it's way different than even St. George. We get really intense heat down here, but up there you guys get all the frigid cold and you guys get the mountains and the snow but it's the distance and it's the angle, the view and the scrub oak and the fires and one road coming in, one road going out. And there's a lot of other variables. And if it was me, it's easier to maintain long-term less cameras, but that are higher resolution that can accomplish the same thing. And I can also look through these quotes because this has been a few months since we looked at this to take a look to see if there's any better options. But for the most part, it's going to be pretty close to where we're at here. The only difference would be maybe if we scaled back some cameras, like on the quantity or whatever we were looking to do. Sorry to interrupt you there. I just figured I wanted to touch on that note since we were talking about the higher resolution cameras. So
We know that we have power at each one of these locations. There is power there.
Whether at the one at the park, we need to pull power and pull fiber.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that where we were going to go from that pole over to that little foyer or the?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The pole's been set, or you probably saw the pole has been set.
I'm just looking at the city camera now and with the city buildings and of course it's dark out there, but you really can't see much at night with this. I assume these new ones are going to take care of that problem.
Yeah. So that's just basic infrared. Like I said, infrared allows you to see an image, but like I said, if you were to go pull that footage later and zoom in on that, it's literally just an infrared. It's not an actual dark fight. What happens is the image there's tons of function built into the camera with lighting and the lens type and what it's actually able to do when you go pull the footage later. They basically treat it as if it's pretty much the full daytime. And so they have to be true night day cameras with all the other functions built into it. And that's why they get more expensive. Or just,
Gotcha.
that's one of many features anyway.
Which I think is important.
Yeah. If you guys have a lot of things, I mean, I don't know, are most of the vandalism stuff happened at nighttime, or has it been during the daytime that you guys have experienced anything?
Probably both. I think we have instances at night and probably more at night than we do in the day.
Yeah, so I think it would be smarter to go with a better camera at each location. And even if we don't put as many cameras, at least one decent camera at each location would be very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
So
Has anyone spoken to the police that we kind of use to catch these things? What their recommendations are, thoughts are? Was it?
come again?
I don't think anybody has on our side. Well, our sheriff turnover has been a little greater than normal lately, and our current sheriff is not going to be with us anymore due to some family issues. So I think we're going off of experience of security and then what we've already used and what we've been able to.
Well, I would expect the police are gonna take whatever we have, right?
Right, but they might have some recommendations and some
Yeah.
perspective.
That's true. That's true.
Craig would probably be the best go-to on this, I would assume. Would you agree with that as a committee?
And maybe that's why Val was the one, his name was at least on the original proposal.
Wendy had asked Val to head this up last year, and so he kind of resurrected again, and she put him kind of as the technology security.
Okay. So not necessarily from the fire department, but from a technology side. But he obviously has both.
Right.
So Ryan, we'll go through it as a committee here and make our recommendation to the city council. And the city council will either reject or approve, so.
Okay, yeah, if you guys want to just keep it as is, and I honestly, I feel like Chris and I have gone through this thoroughly enough where, also too, just if you want to mention this to the committee, that if there are things that we do scale back on, and Chris knows this, I mean, we've done enough projects together that if there's an extra camera we need to put in somewhere, I'm fine to even eat the cost of it. Or if I need to, we didn't end up doing something, I'm not going to bill for it. So I think that's the tough part with doing projects like this, is there's a lot of unknowns that you're not going to notice until you get into it, whether it's via power or trenching something or finding access, or we needed, we're not getting perfect connection from a certain area. So yeah, I guess just keep me posted, whether I hear from you, Mike, or Chris, or whoever. Yeah, and
A really quick question before you jump off.
Okay.
Based off of this budget, and I know this is going to be, estimated, how much more would you expect if we just went with this budget right here, or went with this bid with price changes? We talking 1,000? Are we talking 5,000?
I don't think, if anything, it's probably going to be the same. I mean, like I said, these cameras, the higher resolution, they don't change the pricing very much on here. The rest of this that I've looked through here, a lot of this is really just labor. And I'm not going to, I mean, I'll honor this stuff. Like this wasn't too long ago that we created this proposal, or that I did. So, I mean, I'd be fine to even honor everything that's on here currently that I've looked through. So
it's going to be very close.
Yeah, if anything, we can just keep this as is. And if we need to, like I said, if we need to remove anything, if anything, it'll be in the positive for the proposal amount.
Gotcha. Okay.
So-
Thank you for that.
Yep.
A couple other questions, just briefly. Is this as a system, is it easily integrated? If the city wants to add to it later on, add some cameras, is everything in place to do that?
Yep.
Or would we have to buy additional equipment to accommodate additional cameras, that sort of thing?
So the benefit with doing high res cameras, you guys are actually built for future use, because a lot of these NVRs in these areas are actually, we have to build them really robust because of the high res cameras. They have to have a lot more storage room on them to record. So you have room to add cameras at every one of these sites. And so The only thing you'd ever have in the future is if basically it would just be the cost of whatever additional cameras you want to add. So as far as the NVRs are concerned, they'll all be able to handle, you guys will have space for multiple locations. It would just be a matter of picking a new camera for another area. So now,
And these will carry data for how long until it loops itself?
so certain areas are going to carry well over 30 days. And I mean, maybe that would be something we would want to address, but usually 30 to 45 day window is very common. Because sometimes you don't know something's taking place for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
You guys might know sooner than then, but at least there's over 30 days at each of these locations. And that's even with the high res. Now, if you guys wanted more time than that, we can have certain cameras recording at less resolution. That's an option, but typically you don't want to do that with these types of cameras, because then you're basically limiting the resolution function if you ever have to go back and get footage.
You could have
But
a
30
report
and
on
45 day window is very common for this type of setup.
how many hard drives do we want to install really is that's just a limiting factor. But
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, all these are very scalable on that end. I have a client, he likes like 4 or 5 months with everything. And I have like 64 gig hard drives that are in some of his small 8-channel and 16-channel NVRs. But that's just, he has properties all over the country, and he doesn't go and visit them all the time. So he just likes to know if something happens, he can get footage from back, a long time prior to that. But in this situation, you guys have enough people that are touching, parks and touching areas that I'm pretty positive you know something comes up within a 30-day window, I'd assume. But once again, that's something that if you guys decide that you need more footage there, that's something where I don't even mind giving you guys an extra hard drive at one of these NVRs, or even 2 of them or so. If that ever comes up that we need more footage, that's something that I would just do as a courtesy. Just because that's something that we're not going to know until we get to that point. So yeah.
That's nice of you. Thank you so much for your help.
Sorry that I got on a little late tonight, guys. It's been a crazy day, and I'm sure the same for all you guys. I guess I'll wait to hear from one of you guys later, and I'll jump off here right now. Anybody have any other further questions?
Last question, Ryan.
Okay.
Sorry. Is timing on this, is it such that you're 30, 60, 90 days out? What is the?
So specialty hardware camera stuff like this right now, it wouldn't actually be my time frame. It would be more or less ordering the cameras. Right now, based on camera, our manufacturer, some of these pieces of hardware could be 2 months out. But if I get on it right now, I'm actually placing most of my orders for my summer school jobs right now. I've actually placed most of those orders. I could probably do it sooner, but what sort of time frame are you guys looking to get this done, I guess, would be the better question.
Last month.
It's always a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
Basically, I would just be at the mercy of trying to make sure that if every one of these pieces are available, I can get on it in a couple weeks by the time I receive everything, all the equipment. But worst case would be if I had to wait a couple extra weeks for some of these. Now, technically, I can make 2 trips and come and run all the cabling and get everything done, and then put a couple cameras that we have left that haven't come in and get some of that started if need be, if there's an area that's more pressing that needs to get done now. But like I said, I could look into the time frame to get some of these cameras tomorrow, and I can let somebody know. But it shouldn't be too bad. I just like to be a worst case scenario on that it could potentially. The pandemic's caused every industry in the technology industry to be delayed. Chris can actually vouch on that. I'm pretty sure there's some equipment he's already had an order for his new school coming up that's probably delayed too. So it's just, I think everybody has the same issue right now.
And I was in jest. I don't think we're rushed, but I mean, it's
Okay.
just nice to get.
I'm curious if most of this equipment is US made or
So all this
Chinese,
is
or where's
overseas.
it coming?
So to give you an example, if this was all US made cameras, your quote would be 60 grand plus. So, and the resolution for all this stuff, way higher grade. So I jumped, just to give you an example, years ago, I actually used to do just straight analog. This before analog became IP cameras. This was back in 2013 is when most of the industry started getting converted. This is the most economical. I mean, you're talking US brand stuff because they have licensing things for certain vendors that sell cameras that are USA made. They only sell to certain people, and they charge these huge licensing fees for it. And so they have to pass those on to, whether it's the city or whoever's buying the cameras, and you end up spending you know, $10,000+ for cameras like this, just for the camera alone. And so it's just, it's not worth it for the end user. And so we've never really, I mean, I've installed them before, trust me. I've done school bids that they require certain cameras, like Axis would be one of those brands, and you can go Google them. Yeah, that's a brand that you can find just by Googling. You can see their cameras are well up into, you know, I mean, they get clear up to $40,000 for some of the cameras that are like this, just for one single camera. So, like I said, it's down to the budget end. I found that almost all my clients, depending on their budget, these cameras that we've done pretty much for all of our setups are also, and as an example too, I haven't had to replace. I don't even know if we've ever had a camera even at any of your schools clear back to 2012 that have gone bad. Chris, have we?
Not that you guys came and replaced a bunch from somebody else that put them in.
Oh yeah, well that was from prior to them. But as far as what we've installed, I don't think any of them even gone bad. If anything, maybe it's one, and that was but you're
Okay.
talking about replacement of the other cameras that a different group installed, correct? From your other school. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. But these are very, like I said, the cameras. If anything, they're built just as good, if not even better than USA made stuff. I mean, most of all the hardware inside, they're all from the same manufacturers. It's just a different stamp, you know, a name on it. You're really just paying the name brand. So anyway, yep.
Perfect.
Any other
Thank you.
questions on that note?
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
We'll be getting in touch with you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, I think the thing that needs to be figured out then is the budgetary timing of it and the amount, because we budgeted 15,000 and obviously we don't have enough in our budget to cover it. Can we pull some from this savings area and if the mayor approves it, to put it into this year's budget and then proceed accordingly?
Do you remember that 70,000 we had carried over? And I said it could go very fast. This is a good example. So there's still that $71,000 we're carrying over this year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'd be willing to support doing this in this budget cycle, not waiting till next budget cycle. We've talked about this for years and years, and with the terrible cameras that we currently have, we've actually been very successful at catching a lot of crazies. And so I think a better system would just make us that more effective.
So we have 56,000 carryover. Is that what you're saying?
72 or something, right?
70,948, 71,000.
So now it's 56 though, right? If we take 30K off or 15K from already budgeted, another 15.
Right.
Yeah. I think I agree. Let's get the bud. I mean, of course it's not our choice, but I think that's a good place to take it and get it done. Because you're gonna have to get it all at once. You're not gonna be able to piece it together.
Newt, are you okay with that? Diane?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still. I wish we'd have gotten more bids. I hate to give it to the one person that gave a bid.
Well, I think if you talk to Val did this ad nauseam, and this is basically the person who responded.
So he's already gotten multiple bids, and this is what he's kind of in a sense saying.
I tried to get another, well, can you
He
hear
tried
me?
and tried, and I don't think anybody else responded to this type of. This is kind of more unique because there's so many backhauls they're having to do wireless. And these guys, this Ryan's company used to do wireless internet like Radio Burst and Digis. And so they've got the background to do backhauls.
I will tell you, LiveView, you can just buy their equipment too, but it's a lot more than that now.
Do we have any idea that, I mean, I'm assuming it's probably, you don't really know because technology is changing so quickly, but are these good for 10 years? Or are they good for
Good question, Newt.
30 or?
Do you have an answer, Chris, on that? You've worked with them enough?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Nick?
Just, how long these cameras are good for. Are they obsolete after 2 years because technology advances, or are they typically?
So those cameras that I showed you earlier on here, those are about 6 years old. And we've been using his cameras at our oldest school since 2012. And like you said, we've only replaced one. We have about 60 cameras.
60?
Yeah. Across 3 buildings.
I don't think that the cameras go out of style, out of work, I should say. I mean, I think they'll always work. It's just there's nicer stuff that comes out. But
If we want to get like 10 megapixels or 8 megapixels, that's where we want us to do it. Our cameras now are 2 megapixels, and you can tell they're grainy, especially the kids that were playing on the water tank. The only reason we really caught him is because the one kid had bushy blonde hair and he was easy identifiable. It was just a regular cut kid. We may not have ever caught him.
Yeah.
Because of the resolution.
So to answer your question about the cameras, I don't believe that these are obsolete now. I don't think that ever happens. I think it's just it comes out so much nicer. From what I understand, I'm not a camera guy.
It's like computers now. You used to be able to get the Pentium chip, and then Intel made a new chip and a new chip, and now you just buy a computer because they all work.
Yeah.
I think we're at the point as a city that we seriously move forward on this and just get it done. Get this
That's my feeling, and my feeling is that's the way to go.
If you feel good about it, Newt.
I do. Dave, would you be the one to take this? Is that how it works?
You want
Yes.
something formal from us, Dave? You want to?
Just a recommendation. I'd be happy to take the recommendation. Chris, do you know when Wendy plans on discussing this year, the current budget with
27.
council?
Next council meeting.
Okay, then that would be when we would take whatever the recommendation is to the
So I'm going to
council.
go ahead and put it in if that's what you guys say. I'm going to go ahead and put it in this budget right now. A, so I don't forget, and B, when we print it out and give the council members, it'll already be in there.
Go ahead, Dave, and put that in our minutes that we've approved it.
And Mike,
Okay.
I think it would be wise. I know there's a lot of criticism last year about some of the things that the city bought without getting bids from other things. And I'm not saying that that's not the avenue to pursue, but I think it would be wise to have some rationale for why we're not doing that. If that's the decision to make a single bid, the recommendation. I just, I'm like Newt a little bit. It just kind of concerns me, and that in answering to the residents here to justify, again, there could be a myriad of reasons why we're just going with one particular bid. And if the work's been done and everything else to support that, then fine. But I think that ought to be carried forward with whatever recommendation is made.
I do have a written bid from LiveView if you want me to pass it through too.
Yeah, we have a bid there from LiveView. We also, I put this out to Mike Reed to bid, and he has not bid it. He didn't want to get into it and deal with it. If any of us know of any other companies out there that would like to bid this, I'd certainly put it out for bid. But
Look, maybe we had to ask Val before we spin our wheels. He may have already done all this and
okay,
provided the best bid instead. Then that way it saves us maybe a little time.
I do have a connection with Bosch that does the security surveillance systems that I could just see. But I agree. If Val's already kind of done the homework and gotten the bids to go with this one and the one that John has, then we don't want to recreate the wheel. But if not, I can reach out to my connection with Bosch.
I'll make a call right now real quick and find out.
To Val.
Yes. See if he has any other bids he can provide us. No
Because
time.
I do agree. I think it, you know, as far as residents are concerned, it's nice to have, not just go with, oh, we want this one. But I am impressed with him.
We're in the process right now talking about these cameras in our committee meeting. And we had a quick question. I thought maybe you'd have an answer. Did you get any secondary bids, additional bids, or was it the one from Ryan?
I know Corbett had a bid.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. It was like, what, $1,200, $1,500, and it would wash our clothes.
Yeah. $1,200, huh?
I think that was for like 1 megapixel cameras.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring that up there.
And that's the other hard part it is, guys, is comparing apples to apples when it comes to Wi-Fi or
We got one additional bid from Live
visual.
View, and it's out of sight, so it's really expensive on their side, so this would definitely beat out that bid. So I'll report that to the committee right here, Val, and then if I need you additionally, I'll give you a call. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Val did not get additional bids.
Okay.
But he said, before they went on further with Ryan here, they wanted to first make sure, because they've had him jump through a bunch of hoops for us, that he wanted to make sure that we have funding at this point in time before they went any further. And then they were going to check out maybe an additional bid or two. I think it's good counsel, Wayne and Newt. I think that's good wisdom. And so, Newt, if you could reach out with Bosch, see if they would give us a bid, and we want to make sure it's apples to apples. I don't know how we do that.
Forward your bid right there to Newt
Well,
and I.
usually you don't use a bid
Pick out
to
the
bid.
prices and forward the.
Well, you can
Yeah.
use it just for the equipment, not put prices or anything on it, but
Yeah,
Hey, you-
take the prices off of it. And then let them bid it. See what it comes in at.
That's installing everything. But I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I think this is installation.
is.
He said a lot of it is labor, so.
Yeah, I was impressed with this Ryan guy, I really was. But I agree.
Well, we've got a good recommendation with Chris and a history, so it's gonna have to, whatever we get would have to probably, dramatically be better to make it really worth
Yeah.
it. But the point is, we have to do our homework so that we can kind of stand in front of the citizens and say, no, we did due diligence. This wasn't just some friend of a friend that got the bid.
I agree.
Remember when you get another bids that they need to tie into our existing system, or we just have to scrap the whole system?
Say that
I think
again,
that,
Chris.
well, because we've got a Hike Vision system right now, and if Bosch comes in, if they can tie into it, that would be awesome. So we can have, like you talked about, one app instead of a Bosch app, a Hike Vision app, or a Wise Camera app, or something like that. We don't.
What's the current one, Chris?
Hike Vision,
Spell it.
HIKVISION.
So Chris, can this Skywire Technologies, can they tie into ours? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so when we originally built the system with Mayor Lordson, we built it to be expandable for Hike Vision. And so our DVR can handle more, I think it can handle 1 or 2 more cameras without having to buy another DVR. However, with the cameras we're looking at buying, we are gonna have to buy another DVR. Or NVR, sorry, he calls it NVR, but just a recording device. But our backhaul that we have between the water tanks and the city center is a 90 meg wireless link. And so it's going to tie into that. We don't have to do any other wires since we don't have fiber up the tanks yet.
So John, do you have a good bid then from Life View.
I do. Theirs are, it's a little bit different because they're all self-sustained, but I do have the bid and I can forward it.
Wayne, do you think it would be sufficient to have those 2 additional bids? Or do you think you want 2 more bids other than that?
No, I think as long as if we got 3 bids on it, I think that's plenty.
Okay.
There is
Listen.
one more company in Provo called Mountain Land. I think Mountain Land Security or something. They might bid on it, but I don't have any relationship or know anybody there. I just heard they do cameras.
Okay, John, do you want to contact Mountain Land?
Okay.
And when they want technical information, when I'm contacting Bosch, where do I have them talk to you, Chris, or Corbett, or
Val,
Val?
yeah.
Okay, good. That'll be helpful. All right.
All righty.
All right, guys. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Is there anything else to discuss tonight?
I still think that we should be planning on spending about 30K though, just as a idea, and David, as you're meeting with the city council and stuff, that we're kind of have that money set aside in the anticipation of a security system. And if we can do it for cheaper, great.
Agree. And would you forward this bid to myself as well, so that I have what type of cameras we're talking about?
Yeah,
I
can you
can-
send that out, Dave, if you wouldn't mind, if that's your screen that we're seeing.
Yeah, I can do that.
And I've got one, a written copy, but I don't have it's probably in an email somewhere. I'm sure I printed it out from an email. Now that I
And
think
I just want to be able to,
Copy too, so I printed one out.
and I'm
Yeah,
not
if you
just
could
gonna
email
forward,
that to John, that would be great.
and I won't just forward that to him, of course, but I just want to make sure that I have, that I'm trying to compare apples to apples. So,
Okay. Any other discussions, gentlemen? Any public comment? Wayne, do you have any public comment? We appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you. It's always good to see you. I'm sorry about my internet tonight. Sorry about my internet tonight, you guys. Our next meeting will be May 12th, Wednesday at 8 p.m. If everybody's good on that time, date and time.
good.
Okay, we'll adjourn this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, you
Appreciate
guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
See you later, Chris.